above, and you'll be happier without me. Push me out to sea, baby. There's nothing left for you to do. We did our best with our love, baby, but it brought us down so low. And you'll be happier without me. Now we're up on your beach one morning, strange shell lying on the shore. You put me to your ear and I'll whisper, what today I just can't say. Then you throw me back to
Thank you for coming. This is not something I do well, so if somebody wants to step in and replace me, they can.
You're irreplaceable.
This is a sad day and a glorious day. Sad because Jon is no longer with us. Glorious because we all have stories of the grace, the honor, and the moral muscle that Jon spread over all of us. Yes, he could be a pain in the ass, but most of us remember him as someone who gave of himself and stood up for what he believed in. It is appropriate that we are at this spot because we have with us Chuck and Steve Romanoff of the band Schooner Fair, who with the late Tom Rowe etched Maine on our souls. They own that ocean out there. But they've shared it with us for more than 40 years. Jon loved this spot, and he loves Schooner Fair. Another reason this spot is special is that right down there is where we played softball for years. Many of you have stories about that. But first, help yourself to food and enjoy Schooner Fair.
We had just started playing in the bars. On what is now Chandler's Wharf was Central Wharf, owned by the Willard Daggett Fish Company. And the fish factory at the end of the wharf had been converted to a bar and a restaurant called the Holy Mackerel in 1976. It was 25 years later that we finally realized why they didn't want to have live music, and I had to beg them to hire us, so we only played on Sundays. And it was because it was a money laundry for the Boston Mafia.
They say.
So when it closed on New Year's Eve of 1979, very abruptly, it sort of confirmed their shadiness. But we owe Jon a lot because he not only became a friend, but he supported us. I think we may have had a cover story in audience once a year. It was remarkable. So let's do this very appropriate song for Jon.
As I walked down the dockside one evening so fair, to view the still waters and take the salt air, I heard an old fisherman singing this song, saying, "Take me away, boys, the time is not long. Wrap me up in the oilskins and jumper, no more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell me, old shipmates, I'm taking a trip, mates, and I'll see you one day in Fiddler's Green." Fiddler's Green is a place I've heard tell, where fishermen go if they don't go to hell. Where the weather is fair, the dolphins do play, and the cold coast of Greenland are far, far away. Wrap me up in the oilskins and jumper, no more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell the old shipmates I'm taking a trip next, and I'll see you one day in Fiddler's Green. Oh, I don't need a harp or a halo, not me. Just give me a ship and a good rolling sea, and I'll play the old squeeze box as we roll along, with the wind in the rain to sing me a song. Wrap me up in the oilskins and jumper, no more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell the old shipmates I'm taking a trip next, and I'll see you one day in Fiddler's Green. Wrap me up in the oilskins and jumper, no more on the docks I'll be seen. Just tell the old shipmates I'm taking a trip mates, and I'll see you one day in Fiddler's Green.
Thank you.
I was showing us that this black and white photo that was taken right over here became backside cover of our We the People album in 1985.
Wow.
Yeah, we're on a flatbed in front of a Portland headlight with dark hair.
I could just jump up onto that flatbed. Just leaping up onto it. So,
So I'm going to sit because I forgot my guitar straps. I switched out guitar cases. I didn't bring my straps, so okay, we're at eye level. We were able to build our act, so to speak, amidst the chef chasing one of the cooks out of the kitchen with a cleaver in his hand, or the fights. The fights were just hysterical, and we never canceled. So we're way down at the end of the dock, and in a blizzard, people would park out on Commercial Street and walk all the way in to the dock because they knew we would be there, and we were there. It was great. So we built up a faithful following just through showing up.
that's half of it, right? They say that's half of it.
And since we were calling ourselves Schooner Fair, and because we were playing at a place called Holy Mackerel on a dock in Portland Harbor, I thought it was important to write a song about ships. So I spent a lot of time in the Deering High School library, where I was teaching at the time, reading about clipper ships, because it was just a fascinating topic, and that's where this song came from.
hearty shout, she comes about and she gets into the rain, and the ship has never seen a better day. Sailing ships and sailing men will sail over the waters, where the only thing that matters is the wind inside the Maine. So all you loving mothers, keep your eyes upon your daughters, for the sails will mend their tatters, and the mast will rise again. Dreams and human dreams are all that makes us whole, and the magic of the wind upon our sail. Where other fight the weather than the fishes down below, God help us and the rigging never fail. As the skipper reads the captain's seat above the vessel's bow, so on board to hear the call. It's nothing but the singing of the ship inside the bones, and this is when she likes to miss them all. Sailing ships and sailing men will sail in the burning waters, where the only thing that matters is the wind inside the Maine. So all you loving mothers, keep your eyes upon your daughters, for the sails will mend their tatters, and the mast will rise again. Clipper's nose is round here, where fortune takes the cruise and wish them well. When men believe in lost at sea, is somewhere in between the regions of heaven and the hell. When you sail the eastern harbors and the California shore, you set your mind to see them, then you can. As you come fast, go sailing past, and louder than before, then you know the Clipper's day has gone again. Sailing ships and sailing men will sail in the burning waters, where the only thing that matters is the wind inside the Maine. So all you loving mothers, keep your eyes upon your daughters, for the sails will mend their tatters, and the mast will rise again. Sailing ships and sailing men will sail in the burning waters, where the only thing that matters is the wind inside the Maine. So all you loving mothers, keep your eyes upon your daughters, for the sails will mend their tatters, and the mast will rise again. So all you loving mothers, keep your eyes upon your daughters, for the sails will mend their tatters, and the mast will rise. One more would like to do that. I think it's very appropriate. We have survivors from the folk scare here. People for whom the word hootnan is not just another Dutch word. So this is something that is so easy to join in on that we learned it. It's impossible to mess up. So it's got a great chorus. We'll call that chorus instead of a refrain because refrain is discouraging. Well, me name is Jock Stewart. I'm a canny young man, but a roving young fellow I be. So be easy and free when you're drinking with me. I'm a man, you know me, every day. So don't wait for an easier song. So be easy and free So be easy and free when you drink it with me. I'm a man you don't meet every day. So come fill up your glass with brandy or wine, and whatever the cost I will pay. So be easy and free when you drink it with me. I'm a man you don't meet every day. So be easy and free when you drink it with me. I'm a man you don't meet every day. Have a Jon.
Thank you very much. You guys have to get along, but
Oh, I'm gonna stick around for a while. We didn't know there was gonna be food and booze.
Be easy and free when you're drinking with. Okay. I'm so sorry to miss this memorial for a great guy. I will be in Greece, so cannot attend. When I think of Jon, I have several strong memories from the ancient days of working for the Maine Sunday Telegram. Jon is at his desk overseeing the audience section. These were the days when cut and paste meant literally cutting your paper copy apart and reassembling it by taping together the scraps of paper into a new order of paragraphs. In this memory, I am standing next to him watching as he uses a thick red crayon pencil to cross out large sections of the feature story. I just handed him. Self-indulgent, he says, and X's out a paragraph. You've buried your lead, he says, and makes a huge circle around the 5th paragraph, then draws a line in the margin up to the top. As so many young reporters before me, I thought I could write. But it was Jon who taught me to be a professional writer, how to shape a better narrative, how to keep a story moving, and the critical importance of fact-checking. The worst thing you could say to him was, well, I assume that was the person, blah, blah, blah. Assume was a dirty word. Either I knew or I didn't. I owe him a lot for his kind patience. But then there was the proving ground of the softball field. I was a terrible player. I couldn't hit or throw. Team captain, manager Jon, didn't hide behind a polite facade. He wanted to win, and I quickly realized that I had to step away from that game if I was to maintain even a shred of pride and any of his respect. I remember his team shirt design, "No lead is big enough." I remember that too. Another image is of Donna and him sitting with other reporters and editors at the Deli One, sharing beer and stories. We solved a lot of the world's problems in that dingy place, and you remember that Lou didn't like it when we went there after work. But anyway, but once we retired, got fired, or quit, we went our separate ways. I regret that I didn't stay as connected to Jon and Donna as we had been in our earlier days. I thought we'd find a project to work on together that would bring us in close contact again. I have found that project, but Jon is gone. I know that he was a true friend and that he supported us all in some way or time. I miss you, Jon. Very smell. I just really felt like I needed to get my thoughts out on paper. So this is what I wrote. Jon touched our lives in so many ways. So many memories come flooding back when I think of him. You probably would be surprised to hear that I learned quite a few lessons about life simply by being in his. And here are just a few of them. 1, make time for friends. A few summers ago, after one of our infrequent dinners together, Jon presented us the idea of getting subscriptions to Portland Stage together as a way of seeing each other more often. It was a great idea, given how busy Rick and I can get with our own stuff and how little time we seem to have for people outside of our immediate family. We made it to 2 of the plays before COVID, and our dinners after the shows were moments I will cherish forever. Our conversations were always memorable and just plain fun. They always rekindled memories of the times we spent together when we were young, and I always came away from them rejoicing in the fact that we were still friends. Number 2, live life like a journalist. Jon was on top of a lot of trends because he read so widely and was curious about what others were reading or watching or thinking. Rick certainly benefited from Jon's taste in movies and writers. I'll remember his turning us on to Friday Night Lights, a great TV series. It was always fun to share in his discoveries. Jon was also, like any good journalist, a good listener. A whole evening would go by and you'd realize that you never got the chance to ask how he was doing because he was so intent at finding out what was going on with you. Jon also held people to high standards. I never had anything edited by Jon when I was at the Press Herald, and now I know why I'm grateful, but so I had no idea how meticulous he was until he offered to proofread my basketball book. He didn't just fix typos. He checked facts and suggested style edits and made comments about what he liked and didn't like, and the fact that he really seemed to champion the idea buoyed my confidence. I'm so thankful that he was willing to take that time. Number 3, and maybe most important, root for the underdog and rejoice in being one. Jon was as competitive as all get out, and he admired athletes like Kim Coombs, who was a woman we played softball with, and even Kong, who was a guy that we played softball against, who could change the complexion of a slow-pitch softball game with one swing. But he also had a soft spot for the marginal players among us, and he always managed to find ways to get them into the game. The Deli Wonders, as we called ourselves, were the epitome of the way he approached the game, overcoming the odds, persevering, savoring the victories, and just plain loving the sheer fun of it. I don't remember who coined the phrase, it was a great game except for one bad inning. I know we had t-shirts made up that said that. But I'm reminded of that Deli One mantra when I think of the recurrence of Jon's cancer just when he thought he had it licked. But boy, I'll always remember the line drives, the great catches, that monster serve on the tennis court. His was a life well lived, a game well played.
Always need to.
I would just stand right here for the next hour just in case. Okay, now I'd like to call on Shoshana Host. And Shira, where's Shira? He's coming. Okay. One of Jon's great joys in Portland was going to McDonald's on Sunday morning to help students in English and the citizenship exam. I'm reading off the wall here. 3 of his students became citizens. Shoshana introduced Jon to this program, and he was eternally grateful to her. Jon was a journalist, but he also was a teacher, following in the footsteps of his father, who taught special education for 43 years. And so I'm going to give you to Shoshana to read what she wrote after Jon died. And this is Shira Odawa, who is one of the citizens for whom he achieved citizenship, one of the students for whom he achieved citizenship. So he might want to say a few things after Shoshana.
Shira was in my class. I think the first year I taught ESL at Portland Adult Education. And I arranged for him to start tutoring with Jon. And
Yes.
this is a little something I wrote for the newsletter of Friends of Portland Adult Education. Jon Halvorsen was a longtime and dedicated volunteer at Portland Adult Education. He was the best kind of volunteer, one who befriended his tutees and cheered them on as they pursued their goals. Jon made his living through the skillful use of the English language as a newspaper journalist and college magazine editor. I met Jon and his wife Donna 33 years ago when we all worked at the Portland newspapers, and we have been friends ever since. Jon began volunteering as a tutor at Portland Adult Ed in 2014, working with 2 students in my ESL 2 class. One of them, Shira, had immigrated from Somalia, I think I have the years wrong, in 2009, right? Okay. His goal was to bring his 6 children to the US. 6 children or 7? 6? 6. Okay. And that required becoming a US citizen. Shira worked long shifts at the Green Giant factory in Saco at that time, then squeezed in citizenship tutoring sessions with Jon before our evening ESOL class. On June 5th, 2015, I met Jon and Shira at the Homeland Security office near the mall. Jon and I watched with tears in our eyes as Shira became a US citizen. Afterward, the 2 of them went to McDonald's to celebrate. Shira and Jon met weekly at McDonald's to continue their English tutoring sessions and to catch up as old friends do. Over time, Jon began tutoring some of Shira's friends. Adult ed volunteers may never know the impact they have, but there is no doubt that Jon made a huge difference in Shira's life. As a result of becoming a US citizen, Shira was able to return to Somalia and to see his children for the first time in many years. When I told Shira of Jon's death, he replied, "Always, he is a nice friend to me. I'm so sorry. My heart is so sad. I hope he is helping angels."
All right.
Sorry, I'm have a lot of talking, but I'm not understand a lot of sentences, no understand a lot of English. But Jon, my friend, my teacher. But Jon before, she is Brandy and Soshana. Soshana is my teacher, adult school. Then I say, my teacher, Soshana, I want to tutor because I need citizenship. I want some tour, training, and citizenship class. I say, okay, sure. She is bringing my brother Jon, teacher, then nice guy. Yeah, everywhere. And last time I'm not scheduled school. A lot of job. I have children, 6 children, Africa. I'm live here. Then Belgium, some children. That's why a lot of job, no school schedule. I'm talking to and my brother, Jon. I say, please, can you help me, please? Okay, sure, go ahead. I need Sunday morning, you can help me? Touring class, English? Say yes. Say help me. Uh, Citizenship to class Sunday and try. Then last time he is go and California vacation. He and Donna, then he is taking class trading citizenship. Started, I think, 1 month. Then he is back, Portland. He is coming McDonald. Say, teacher, yes. Almost I'm applied citizen. What? Why apply? Shit. Sure. Almost finger is coming. I'm waiting an interview. My God, why fasting? No problem. Okay, one day he and me is go and migration interview. My teacher is sad, no happy. And inside phone interview, and my teacher is this way, Jail is this way, no happy. Say shit today down. Yes, I'm coming, baby, in the relation. Shit, you pass it. Say my teacher is this way. I'm taking paper here. He is looking. Saying, shoot Very guy, very, very happy. Very, yes. Cry, my friend. Yeah. That's why my friend lost now. Yeah. But stay still family. Family, my family. That's why today I'm working. My job is stop. I'm coming here. But I'm live. I'm stay alive. This family, my family. That's it. Thank you.
Here is a statement from Cordelia Onu. She was one of the World Press Institute journalists for whom we were a host in St. Paul, one of 10 journalists from 8 countries that we hosted while we were there. And after John died, she wrote this, and she told me I could read it to you. The WPI is the World Press Institute, and they are based in St. Paul. The WPI host parents are a group of very hospitable, dynamic, long-suffering Americans who get to meet and parent an old child from a strange new country every year. They seem to enjoy it, which baffles me. They allow total strangers they just met roam their houses. They spend good dollars on these children and follow them up with endless calls as they go off on the road trip portion of the program. I asked every imaginable question and got answers. I became a child once again in an American home. I ate many lunches at the new parents' home. They bought innumerable dinners and rushed in with suitable warm clothing when what I came with could not ward off the American cold by the beginning of October. The host parents are part of the reason the WPI program remains unique and popular. You got to learn more things about the country from the parents than you ever would in a classroom. They represent the real America. They leave indelible memories. That is why I am still in touch with the Halvorsen The host parents stick with you for life. It is not easy to shake off their impact. Jon and Donna Halvorsen fell me off on a date in October 1999, but I still have not gotten over their love and large-heartedness. I still recall the couple who returned me to childhood at the ripe old age of 33. I salute them and the spirit of Jon Halvorsen. He was a great man. He loved and served his country and showcased true Americanness. May heaven receive his soul and give him a just reward and rest. Cordelia, after Jon died, kept in touch with me by email several times a week and gave me sort of things to live by in these difficult times. So anyway, she and all the other fellows became really important people in our lives because they showed us other ways of living and we found that we were able to bond with people from almost any country. It was one of the most wonderful experiences of our lives. Where's Doug Warren? There he is. Also, this is a message that just came in this morning from Barb Stolberg, one of Jon's colleagues at McAllister College in St. Paul. Thinking of you today and how wonderful yet difficult Jon's memorial will be, it took a couple of years of casual chat with Jon at work for us to trust each other and start talking about our real thoughts, beliefs, and personal experiences. He's one of the most intelligent, sensitive people I have met. Through our mutual love of golf, I was able to meet and get to know you, Donna. You soon became dear to me. You have all of Jon's qualities, plus a feistiness I love. You two were a perfect match. Hug, Barbara. Okay, we're going to get thick into the softball and baseball stuff now. Here's Doug Warren.
Like more of that.
And anyway, this one comes from Chaz Goldsmith, who lived in England. And he played down on that mound down there with many of us. And he also was engaged with us in many other ways. So Doug's going to read his statement.
Can you hear me? I was told to speak into the microphone. So Chaz Goldsmith, who some of you may remember, had a tendency to talk a lot. And he also wrote an awful lot, but I did edit it down a little bit. This is coming from Chaz. When Donna asked me to write a few words about Jon, I looked back through my emails over the past 15 years or so and decided that it was better to share some of Jon's words to me and my thoughts about his lovely words because Jon could really write. There are no prizes for guessing the theme of many of Jon's emails. As he wrote to me in October 2019, when my Washington Nationals, his Washington Nationals, were driving to an unlikely World Series championship, quote, as a sportscaster said today, the two best words in sports are Game 7. There is plenty of mythology and nostalgia around baseball, and plenty of corny movies about it. But Jon's love of baseball reflected nostalgia meeting real life. His emails to me are peppered with past stars and non-stars, people like Chuck Knobloch, Johan Santana, and Justin Morneau of Jon's beloved Minnesota Twins. The less said about them this season, perhaps. as well as his recollection of some of my childhood heroes from the old Washington Senators like Eddie Yost and Roy Sievers. You would be dating yourself if you remember those people. Jon captured his fascination with baseball in his very last email to me, saying, quote, "More than any other major sport, baseball is unpredictable and therefore gives us real suspense and joy or despair." Think for a moment about those words, joy or despair. For me, one of those joys was seeing Jon on a baseball field. In fact, I think we first met on the diamond at Fort Williams Park, where we played some memorable games in the brilliant sunshine and in the snow, namely the annual January Snowball game with a softball painted black or fluorescent orange. Jon played softball as he lived his life, childhood delight mixed with dedication, as he had great skill at every aspect of the game. His eyes lit up when the journalist team he captained soundly beat the governor's team at the annual Hacks versus Politicians picnic. For Jon, that drubbing of the political class was pure subversive joy, sticking to the man, as they said in the movie School of Rock. As for despair, the only time I ever saw anything resembling it was when a dog, we think it was a dog and not a thief, carried away Jon's beat-up old baseball glove during a game, a decades-old glove that was never recovered. Sad. But baseball was only one of Jon's many interests. His emails to me are full of tales of the travel that he and Donna did over the years, to Barcelona, to Prague, to Venice, to San Francisco, and especially to London, where, punning apologies to the Beatles, they would see 8 plays a week. Jon had a love of the UK that went far beyond London. 1 year, or maybe more than just 1 year. Their travels included a pilgrimage to Cornwall in the far southwest of England, where the TV series Doc Martin is based, as that show has long been a favorite in the Halvorsen household. Then there was music. As Jon was a one-man folk revival, he emailed about seeing Dave Mallet at the Boothbay Harbor Opera House, and his email travelogue to me mentioned the Halvorsens spent 2 nights in Mendocino, California, inspired by the McGarrigle sisters' great song, Talk to Me of Mendocino, which is great. I'm sure Donna and Darcy remember well the sing-alongs we had at their house, often after softball games. How can anyone ever forget how off-tune we were, locking arms and swaying to the Warren Zevon song, Mohammed's Radio. We would sing, "Don't it make you want to rock and roll?" all night long, Mohammed's Radio. I heard someone singing sweet and soulful on the radio, Mohammed's Radio. Sweet and soulful, that pretty well sums up Jon, and his rock and roll spirit sings on. And that's from Chaz Goldsmith. I could tell you a lot of stories, but I don't tell like the first time that Don and I interacted, which was the night that Jon came over to my house after work, had too much scotch, never made it home. But I did get a phone call early in the morning. I don't know how you knew that he was there.
Well, I knew he was with you, but there was Jon Halvorsen.
Yeah, that guy did not like my...
I just picked out one of them and happened to end up with him.
He got a lot of phone calls from me, I gotta say.
And I said, is Jon there? And he said, yeah. Well, but he's asleep. Wild turkey it was.
Oh, maybe it was Wild Turkey. I thought it was Grand McNish, but my memory fades with time. So that was how things started for Donna and I.
Well, when I said, he said, he's asleep. I said, oh, that's really cute.
Yeah. Well, that was after he'd spent some time in the bathroom. We don't need to go into that for much more. But anyways, that's how we started, and that was probably in like 1977 or something like that. Yeah. So it goes back. So it goes back a long way. He'd been working for Jerry up at the AP office. And we were on the same 6 to 2 shift, I think, or something like that. So that's when things really got started. So, and then there was I remember the night I don't know if anybody else is here who was there, but we were up in Augusta for one of those political softball games, and a young woman who, I can't remember, I won't even mention her name, somehow got locked out of her house, and we drove over in Jon's car. This was all like at 2 o'clock in the morning. where we're supposed to be driving back to Portland, but she can't get in her house, but she has some little balcony with a sliding screen door on it, but it's way up there. So the only thing we could figure out to do was to drive the car under the balcony, and then John climbed up on the top of the car and was the only one that was athletic enough to pull himself up off the car over the edge of the balcony and then open her sliding door so that she could get in. And then we took off back for Portland and home. So
Another time when I welcomed them home.
yeah, that didn't go. And then there are all the softball stories and all that other stuff. I took the opposite approach from Chaz Goldsmith, and I just wanted to take this opportunity to say a few words about John, who's my very good friend of more than 40 years. And these are the words that came to me: honest, true, funny, Norsky, dark, deeply intelligent, serious, nerdy, APA. That may only mean something to a few people here. Rocker, Bruce, Schooner Fair, I added to the list too. Travel, England, Bath, San Francisco. Deeply competitive, athletic, tennis, softball, deeply caring. Students, my parents, husband, father, and friend. Cheers. What is that? Oh, Brian McNulty?
Yeah. From Brian McNulty, he was part of that crazy crowd singing in our house.
Anyone see Pete Daly?
Pete Daly, yeah. Oh, you didn't mention Pete Daly. Anyway,
Are you going to read it or do you want me to read it?
I want you to read it. I just wanted to say something, and that is that Doug is an extraordinary human being.
Oh, I didn't know this was
I've just made it up, okay?
It's all made up.
And unlike most young people, he introduced us to his parents. And the minute we walked in the door of their house, we were friends for life. And they were so much fun. They gave us so much joy. We went to basketball games, we went out to dinner, we did theater, we did all kinds of stuff. And Doug introduced us to them, and they were so important to us for our entire life until Harry died, and then Judy, and then John. And here's Brian McNulty's statement. Pardon? And David, yeah, and Ann, everybody. Brian McNulty lives in Ireland now. He was a reporter at the paper here, and this is what he sent.
This is better in a male voice. In a male voice. It's good. Can I do a little Irish brogue? Maybe he's picking one up since he's been living in Ireland or something. No, this is good. I'll always remember Jon Halvorsen for his generosity of spirit in our weekly softball games. These were eagerly anticipated, joyful events with fellow news media and friends on Sundays at Fort Williams. John was one of a handful of players who were consistently excellent at fielding and consistently excellent at hitting. The rest of us mortals had wildly varying skill sets. It was a wonder he could tolerate our extremes and competence without losing patience. The reason, I think, is that he so much enjoyed the camaraderie. Perhaps he kept smiling because he had the wisdom to sense how special these times were. And in such a beautiful setting, so beautiful that Mary and I had our wedding in the gazebo. overlooking our softball field before an October game, and then enjoyed our day with fellow softball comrades. We have a fine Doug Jones photo of the smiling John on the gazebo offering a toast. And I will now give a loud shout out to John and Donna for cleaning my Danforth Street apartment to a spec high enough to lure Mary into my Maine web. So you're responsible for that too. And that's what he had to say.
Yay.
Okay, anybody else who wants to say anything? Well,
I just wanted to add, Brian McNulty, worked for Bates College for many years, and he was the head of, or a very management type and communications department at Bates. And he ultimately was responsible for my father getting a part-time retirement job, which was editing the class notes of the Bates magazine. And he did that for years up until he was too ill to do it. But he did that for how many years? 7 or 8 years. He did it part-time, and that enabled them to be able to go on all of these trips as retirement. But he always worked from home, and he enjoyed it so much. And Brian was ultimately responsible for introducing him to Jay Burns, who was the editor. So, thank you, Brian.
for no particular reason. Wasn't a birthday or Christmas or anything. It really seemed to sum him up, and some of you might agree. It says, you are an adventure. You celebrate life with an intensity that's contagious, and when I'm with you, anything seems possible. You have your own ideas about things and the courage to express them. When we're together, I never know what to expect for sure, but I do know that I'll never be bored. So there are little instances of this. Where did I put that? Oh, it's on the back. We were watching a Twins game, and John wanted to find out if I was paying attention. He said, there's Socrates in right field, Socrates Brito, then of Toronto. There's Plato in center field and Aristotle in left. This is the highlight of the day. Now we're going to listen to the tapes of all the softball games. Did anybody bring the
Ever.
Nobody brought the cake machine? So we're going to have an auction. Looking for a $50 first offer.
And no, I did. But everybody, because that was like, you never did that. That's awesome.
$0.50. Anyway, you got that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I also want to point out, we have a great author in Peter Bonsky.
Yay.
Speak in the microphone.
Bob Keyes, the nationally known award-winning author of this book about Robert, Indiana. So I have a copy here if anybody wants to look, and of course, there are bookstores that will sell you one.
There we go. We get the Halvorsen bump.
Okay.
Donna, before you end, talk about one other book that came out 2 days ago.
Yeah, how about that?
How about that?
Sorry, Bob. I don't mean to overshadow your book, but
Didn't I tell you not to bring that up?
I know.
My book, which is called Tireless, A Reporter's Life, came out on Amazon 2 days ago. And it's a little cheaper than Bob's book.
And a happy ending.